Do you ever find yourself struggling in your marriage? Do you wonder why things are sometimes difficult? Do you ever wonder why your marriage is not thriving and you want to know what you can do to make it better?
That's exactly what we're going to talk about in this episode, so stay tuned. All right, I'm Joey.
I'm Lori.
We are Christ Centered Marriage and Family, and we're going to do a show today called What Causes Divisions in Marriage. But hey, before we do that, how about that video we did about Doug Wilson?
Mm,
Man,
that's kind of crazy.
you may be thinking, I hope you've watched that. If you have not watched that video, it's the video we did a few days ago. Is about how we don't approve of Doug Wilson. And you watch that because we're not Doug Wilson followers. We're not adherers to the Christian nationalism, whatever, the patriarchal, where men dominate the women. That's not us. So we just wanted to do that video and just let you know that we have a more grace centered. When we say Christ centered marriage, Christ demonstrated grace and mercy and forgiveness. And I'm reading a book about living out the Beatitudes in your neighborhood, and it's amazing. Doug Wilson would hate it. But anyway, Lori, get us started.
Next week, we're going to tackle the topic of sexual intimacy in marriage. We are currently putting the finishing touches on our script, but we plan on having a show you don't want. Sexual intimacy is something that churches haven't always done a good job at teaching and mentoring married couples about. That's one of the things we want to help you with. Joey and I have been talking about doing an episode focused on sexual intimacy in marriage. We just needed to get our research done and come up with a good plan for a show that will be beneficial to you in your marriage. The things we will talk about may be new to you, and they may be difficult to take in. This topic is one of the most difficult to discuss, and most often it is simply just not discussed. So we are going to tackle it next week, so you don't want to miss that.
And off script real quick. Probably about 16 months ago, we wouldn't even said this paragraph.
No.
We wouldn't even said the words in this paragraph. It was the unmentionable. And to you might think, yeah, I know what you mean. But it doesn't have to be that way. And next week, I'm telling you, you don't want to miss this episode. Next week, sexual intimacy. Okay, anyway, in the future, we're probably going to go back and review some of our earlier episodes and do retakes because we are just about a year into this next month. And at first, we weren't very good, but we're getting better. And we're doing some equipment changes, and we're probably going to keep doing better with that lighting. And eventually, I'm going to figure out some recording equipment and software and microphones and whatever. But we did a lot of episodes that had good content, but sound was bad, and we were like way back here, and so we're gonna go back and do them better. Today we're gonna look at some things that cause problems in marriage, and we're gonna discuss how to overcome these problems. So, Lori, get us started.
There are many different things that cause problems in marriages, and we could have listed more than we did. But for this episode, we just decided to focus on 7 topics. So you're going to get us started with the
Let's
first.
go. Number one. This is number one. Not being grounded in Jesus Christ. If you can't get this right, you might as well throw the rest of this list out. This is where you have to start in marriage. And I say, well, you Christians are. It doesn't matter. Marriage is a biblical concept, and that's the problem. That's the number one problem: is the world has the wrong view of marriage. Marriage is a biblical concept. So even our theme of our channel is kind of a misnomer: Christ-centered marriage, because all marriages should be
Redundant.
all marriages should be Christ-centered. Should be. Um, last time week we were talking about marrying people of different faiths, and we thinking about the Catholic faith. Um, I mean, I guess two kids getting married could fake it, but get married in a Catholic church, you have to prove that you're willing to become a member of that church and adhere to that faith.
That's a problem.
That's how serious. That's one of the things that the Catholic Church is serious about, being married. The Bible mentions, okay, the marriage is an institute ordained by God from the beginning with Adam and Eve. Genesis chapter 2. The Bible mentions many times how marriage should be Christ centered. Paul writes in Ephesians 5:22 through 33, It's a passage Doug Wilson probably don't preach on. How marriage just symbolizes the relationship between Jesus Christ and the church, where Christ is the head of the husband, and that's where Doug Wilson stops. Or and the husband's the head of the wife, and that's it. Go get them, husbands. And the wife is to be in submission to her husband. That's right, Doug Wilson. And the husband is to love his wife, like Christ loved the church, and should serve her and sacrifice his life for her. Doug Wilson don't talk about that. Paul, I'm really worked up with this Doug Wilson.
You are.
But we'll get over it. But I'm listening. Look, people, look. I hope you don't take that Doug Wilson stuff seriously, because that's not how real Christians function in the society. We don't believe anything like that. I do serve her, and I do give of my time for her, and she does in return submit to me when it's necessary. I don't force her. Well, this is what I say. You better do it.
Mhm.
I don't do that. But Paul reiterates this, what he says in Ephesians 5. He says also to the Colossians in chapter 3, verses 18 and 19. And he adds something to the Colossians. He says, husbands, do not be embittered against your wives. Should I say it? Yep, Doug Wilson don't say it. Peter then writes in 1 Peter 3, 1 through 7, for wives to be submissive to their husbands, and for husbands to treat their wives as a weaker vessel. That means to be graceful to her, to be gentle and kind. Don't be abusive. They don't mean to treat her like she's lesser than you. It just means to handle her with care, because she is lesser. I'm weaker, I mean. Handle your wife with care. But that she is a co-heir of God's grace. When a husband and wife do not put Jesus first in their marriage, and they do not abide by the principles outlined in these Bible passages and other Bible passages, marriage will greatly suffer. A marriage that is not Christ-centered is most likely me-centered. Whatever I think, whatever she thinks, whatever we think, not what God thinks. And that's not going to work. Or it's patterned after the world's corrupt image of marriage. Christ sees marriage as a lifelong covenant. The world sees marriage as a contract that can be broken. A Christ-centered marriage is a lifelong covenant that honors Jesus Christ. The marriage pattern after the world's image of marriage is more like a contract that if we don't want to, abide by the terms, we can get out of it. The world doesn't see marriage as a lifelong covenant. And if one spouse or both spouses are not happy, according to the world's contract standards, we can get out of it. For the record, we don't hold to that. We don't hold to that, and we don't hold to Doug wasn't teaching. Okay, I got one more, and then I'm gonna let her do a couple. Topic number 2: poor communication. Communication in marriage poor communication can cause a division in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Communication is a key factor in any relationship. I guess Doug Wilson will say, wife, you need to communicate to your husband better and learn that whatever he says goes.
Our communication is yes, sir.
It is key, and they're working. We're getting a lot of mileage on this Doug Wilson mess. And then they're working. The key is in a working relationship. Think about if you didn't communicate well to your boss, or your boss didn't give you clear instructions, or school teacher.
Communicate well to your student.
Even if you do to communicate well, they still don't listen.
Sometimes they don't. Yeah. Sometimes you got to communicate 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah. Communication is also key in the husband and wife relationship. In his book, How a Husband Speaks, you have not read that book, men, and there's one for the ladies too.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Frederick, and the ladies have one called How a Wife Speaks by Selena Frederick. Get those books. And he says, in his book, Ryan says, when we ask thousands of couples what they struggle with most in their marriages, wasn't sex, wasn't money, wasn't the in-laws. The disputable winner was communication. That was the number one struggle. Too many problems occur because of failure to communicate properly, or in many cases, not communicate at all, or have what you call surface level.
Mm-hmm.
Lori and I had gotten to the point in our marriage about year and a half ago, 2 years ago, where communication was at surface level, and we just didn't know we didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't know we were supposed to communicate better. We just thought that's just the way marriage is. You settle into a rut, and then just the way it is. You kind of she's on one part of the room, I'm on one part of the room. Okay, hey, it's time to go. Time to go somewhere. Okay, hey, let me get let's get together and let's go somewhere to come home. We're like this. We get together, go to church, come home. We're like this. It don't have to be like that. Um, for Lori and me, it took going to a marriage conference after being married 12 and a half years to realize that we had a communication problem. This isn't enough. There's not enough time to go over that, and we've done episodes about communication. We'll go back and do it again. Um, so give us some time to look over it, and we'll get together and record another one.
So just about all of these we've gone into
Yeah.
in some of our other shows.
Yeah, communication in marriage is key, and you got to number one, you got to get the putting Christ first, and that's number one, and then number two, communication, and then if you don't get those right, none of the rest are going to work. So, Lori, look at number three.
Not knowing each other's love language.
Yes, very good, very good.
Gary Chapman wrote the book, 5 Love Languages. It basically speaks of the manner and mode in which you express your love to someone special in your life. It could be your spouse, your children, your parents, someone else significant in your life. The 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, giving and receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. It's important to be able to recognize which one of these love languages your spouse values the most and use that when interacting with your spouse. So you can, when you get the book, there's like the quizzes in the book, and you take the little quiz. We've done that a couple times because I think after so much time has passed, people change, and your love language might change. So
Here's a book that's it's a blended family book, step family book, but it has the
there's a test.
5 love languages test in there. So this is a book you can find the 5 love languages in as well.
He's got
Doug Wilson don't
no.
like Doug Wilson don't care about the 5 love languages.
No.
I think he probably scoffs at it.
Probably.
We take it seriously. Okay, go ahead.
So if they've got one for your kids too, so when they get old enough, like teenagers, teenagers are hard to communicate with anyway. So maybe you have them take this quiz, and then you can know how to communicate, how to show them love, and that's basically what love language is about: how you show each other love. So if your love language is quality time, and your spouse is communicating you by giving you gifts, then you may not realize, oh, they're trying to show me that they love me.
The
but
gifts won't be bad.
I'm not getting it. No.
But she'd be like,
but you're not interpreting it that way.
I mean, I like the gifts, but he just don't talk to me.
Yeah.
No.
No.
He don't sit down with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just one good way of being able to communicate, because that's kind of piggybacks off the communication thing. Knowing your spouse's love language so you can communicate with them. So we suggest you get one of the love languages. This one is for blended families, and as
there is
you watched our show at all, we're a blended family.
There is a 5 love language book.
Yeah.
You just look it up. You can find Amazon probably.
Yeah, probably.
Everything on Amazon.
Everything's on Amazon.
And do the assessment.
The assessment. Yeah.
Okay, number 4.
Different financial expectations. So financial difficulties lead to various problems in marriages and are leading contributors to divorces. So we talked earlier about how communication is number 1. I don't know what number finances are, but it's probably up there in the top 3 or 4 or so. So like we said earlier, a good starting point is when you get married is to be upfront about your finances, your spending habits, know your knowledge and ability to make money. Some people are not good budgeters, and it is good to establish right away a family budget who will be managing that budget. So in our family, he's the budget manager.
I'm going to pacify the dogs. Hold on.
Okay. We have dogs. They're in and out. Anyway. So this is another topic we'll discuss in length in another episode. Both spouses must be willing to work together and solve all the financial problems. So us being a blended family, when we got married, I had my own account, he had his own account. And we had an agreement at first that his paycheck would take care of all of our bills, and my paycheck, I could use it to just take care of the boys and doctor bills and all that stuff, and field trips and clothes and whatever. And
But I was
then,
a high-ranking man in the Air Force making good money then.
yeah,
That's not the case anymore.
not, no. Um, but I mean, we're still doing okay.
Yeah, doing
But,
great.
anyway, so, it got to a time where we needed to go ahead and combine our finances, and we did. And, he manages all the big stuff, and he funnels a little bit of spending money to me. And, it's not like he's controlling everything. If there's something I want to buy, I'll say, hey, what do you think about me getting this? And usually he tells me yes, that's fine.
Sometimes
Just
I might say, let's wait till this day,
yeah,
but I
let's,
never say no.
let's wait till Friday or whatever. So it's not like he gives me X
But
amount of dollars and
but you
this
know
is
what
it.
the key to all that is, right?
Communication.
Talk about it and work it out.
Yep. So let's see where I'm at. They must be willing to make compromises, cutbacks when necessary, and be on the same page when it comes to finances and marriage. There can't be any secret spending, secret debt, secret money set aside that the other spouse doesn't know about, or secret spending habits. So again, communication is key to finances and marriage. And so we've had the conversation of we're going to eat out. We're going to eat out less this month because we need to save some money for whatever it is. Okay, that's fine. And we don't really eat out a lot anyway. But we like to go eat on. We'd like to go out for some morning church after church and go to lunch, or sometimes we'll go out on a Friday night. So we don't go out every day, but sometimes he'll like, let's not go out today. Let's cook at home or whatever. So we have those conversations, and I'm not going to say no. Let's not do that. Um, he has I have fully trust his budgeting abilities and knows where we're at financially and whether we can afford this or that. And so I lean on him for that, and I'm glad he can do that because I'm not very good at that.
Mhm. I know. Whatever we buy, I put in my budget. I know how it's going to affect 3 months out.
Yep, he does.
So
When I'm gonna tell a story, we'll let
okay,
that one
all
out,
right.
and I'm gonna tell a story.
Ask my dog.
Yep. Um, when we were engaged, so we got engaged in March, and he got deployed to Kuwait. I think it
Quick,
was Kuwait
quick.
in like
6 months.
May, and then he was came back in November. We got married in December.
Yep.
And so when he left, he literally gave me the budget for every month for that
It was
summer.
pretty close.
And he was like, okay, here's my debit card, and you have X amount of dollars. You need to go buy groceries. You need anything for the boys. You get it. And even after we got married, it was the same way. He would get deployed somewhere, and he was like, okay, here's my budget for the next 4 months, whatever it is. And I didn't have to worry about it. And all the bills were paid online, and I basically just had to worry about buying groceries. And I think the water bill was like the only thing that wasn't online at the time. And so he had it all figured out. And that's a stress on him, but it's a load off me. So,
Okay. Anyway, so you got to talk about it. Finances. If you don't talk about your finances, if you don't get that straight, it'll not only cause a division, but it'll put you in a world of hurt.
mhm.
So you got to work that out. Number 5, and some people want me to put this. They may have put this one higher up on the list. Now put these in sequential order, so each number is lesser than the other one. And for some people, this is number 1,
Yeah.
but I mean, it shouldn't be. Different sexual expectations. Number 5. That's what I put number 5. Again, before I say anything about that, the key here is communication. The key is communication. It starts at the beginning.
Mhm.
Next week, we'll discuss more of this in great detail, the whole episode about sexual intimacy in marriage. So you don't want to miss that episode. In short, I recommend discussing um, before you get married, discussing your expectations. And one of you might say, here's what I expect, and the other one say, well, I don't know about that. You got to talk about it. You can't just jump in marriage and then say this is the way it needs to be, and the other one say, well, it ain't gonna be like that. I mean, so you got to talk about it. Have realistic expectations and communicate those expectations to your spouse. And your spouse may not have the same expectations, so you have to work it out. Um, so you got to be communicated. Normally in marriages, one spouse's sex drive is different than the other, and in many cases, not all cases, the wife's sex drive is lower. sometimes much lower than the husband's. And this is the man thing, but there's sometimes women's sex drives are equal or even higher than the men. So it's important to understand this and to factor that in your communication. Yeah, communicate about it. Um, in short, one spouse can expect too much, and the other spouse can expect too little, or you have avoidance. And maybe sometimes it gets to where frustration sets in and it leads to sexual abuse. Um, both spouses need to communicate their sexual needs and work together to come up with a plan that accommodates those needs. For some, sex every night, every other night might be a reality, maybe for the younger folks, you know. But we're just old. Sometimes we're just lucky to um make it to bed on time from a stressful night, and we just lucky just to fall asleep and actually hit the bed,
Mm.
not fall down on the floor. Um, but but in the flip side, you have some younger couples maybe that sex every night or every other night might be what they work out. But a sexless marriage should never be the case unless there are extenuating circumstances. Spouses should find time to sit together with no distractions, talk about all this, talk about their intimacy life, talk about problems, break down the walls. And I mean, we're gonna talk more about this next week, but we had some walls between us a year ago, and it wasn't anything like she had a problem with me or I had a problem with her. It was just there was just some walls, and we had to break those walls down. And it took a marriage conference hearing somebody else tell us the same thing that we were probably thinking. And we were thinking, we never heard anybody say these things to us. And you may think what we're saying, you never heard anybody say this. We're gonna talk more about this next week, so you don't want to miss that. Um, but you gotta talk about it. Break down the barriers. Come to an agreement. Again, we're talking about this more next week. Okay, Lori, number 6.
Parenting styles. In most marriages, men and women have different parenting styles. One parent can be more lenient, and the other parent more of a disciplinarian. One parent is a rule maker, and the other parent is a rule bender. One parent may bend over backwards for their children, and the other parent may be doing the bare minimum with their children. These differences in parenting can cause severe stress in a marriage. But like we've been saying, communication is the key to solving the issues in parental differences as well. So you got to talk about if you're a blended family like we are, we got to talk about that maybe even before you get married so you can have a clear understanding. So husbands and wives need to communicate in parenting matters and work out their differences. So again, communication is key. And, when we first got married, our youngest, who's 17 now, he was what, like 3?
Yeah.
It's like around
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. Just turned 3.
Just turned 3. And, honestly, I was in survival mode as a single mom, and there were a lot of nights where the boys were not wanting to go to sleep, and I just laid in the bed with them
Before we
just
got
to
married.
before we got
Before we got
married,
married.
just to go to sleep because I was a teacher and I had to get up early, and I didn't have the energy to fight them. So, and then we got married, and Caden would get up in the middle of the night, come to our room, and he'd go to bed, go back to bed. Hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, you got to know your roles too. You got to know as a husband, as a father and a mother, what is your roles? What do I expect from her as a mother, and what does she expect from me as a father? And you're gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that, and you'll work that out. You got to talk about it.
Mhm.
You can't just assume, well, she's just gonna do that, and I'm gonna do this. You got to
Yeah.
talk about it. Okay. Anyways, okay. Number 7. And this one has subparts, so we're gonna break that down as we go. External forces. You can just do a whole topic on this. I can do
Yeah.
a 1 hour topic on this. We're gonna summarize here. This is kind of a catch-all category. These are the things in life that distract us and take our attention away from what's important. And it may not. And I'm not talking about the bad things. I'm not talking about addictions or sinful things or bad things.
Hmm.
These are things that cause us to get busy. Maybe things that we think we need to do. They cause us to lose focus on each other. So, what are some of these external forces that divide us in marriage? And I'm not talking about like alcohol abuse or drug abuse or sexual abuse. I'm not talking about the bad things or pornography or um, just verbal abuse. I'm not talking about none of that.
Yeah.
That's a whole different topic. And when it gets to that point, there's there's more. You need more help than what we can give you in this video.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the things in life we overlook, and sometimes we don't think they're problems. And there's certainly sometimes there are things that we think we need to do. It's just what we think we need to do. Maybe the world tells us this, or um, your community, or you just think you need to do this. Um, some of the obvious are hobbies or interests, the extracurricular things, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Things that like I want to do on my own that she doesn't do, or things she wants to do on her own that I don't do. Um, sometimes that in and of itself not a problem, but in time that could become a problem. So we came up with a list, short list, um, things, and she's going to talk about the first one while I tend to the dogs in.
They're full of it tonight.
Mm.
All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is kids sports and extracurricular activities. So like we talked about, we've got 3 boys, and when they were small, they were young. I told them you could have one extracurricular activity, one at a time. You could play multiple things as long as there were like different seasons. So we were only doing one thing at a time. And our oldest boy, he dabbled in a little bit, a few other, he played football, he played baseball, he played basketball. And then he ended up doing bowling, and that's something he really was really good at. And bowling is a great sport because it doesn't manipulate all of your time like baseball does.
Yeah.
And it really does take some skill and knowledge. People think it's just throwing a ball down a lane, but it really does.
For a while, when all of our boys were doing bowling, it was we all went to the bowling event on Saturday morning, and that was the event. We
Yeah.
all went there as a family.
There was a handful of tournaments during the year, maybe like 2 or 3, where you'd have to go on a Saturday and maybe a Sunday, but it wasn't 5 nights a week for months on end like baseball or some other things are. And so, we just settled into a good rhythm with that. I think they did flag football for a little while too. The 2 oldest ones did. Well, Caden tried, but Caden he's more of a music and art kid, so he's not much of a sportsman. But he, that was a Saturday morning, and I think they practiced like 2 nights a week for like an hour. They weren't practicing 3 or 4 nights a week for 2 or 3 hours. So it was very doable. And me being a teacher, unfortunately, sometimes I got to bring work home. So I was like, I'm not going to be bringing my schoolwork to the baseball field and being there every single night of the week and all day on Saturday. I'm just not doing it. So even if you're doing one sport, if it's something like that takes a lot of your time, that might be something your family just doesn't want to do. Our family didn't want to do that. So luckily my boys didn't really care about baseball. So they never really asked. Our oldest one played for like a year, and then he was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So it just wasn't an issue. Um, so you just have to figure out what works for your family. I mean, if you love I guess if you love being on the baseball field 5 or 6 nights a week, that's fine as long. But it you just have to be careful with how it's going to affect your family life.
We're
So
not saying that doing these extra things are wrong in itself, but you can't make all the extra things that your kids want to do, or you do it with your family, whatever, all the extra sports and activities,
hmm
that can't be the main focus, and your marriage takes a back seat.
yeah, right.
That's
Can't come first.
yeah, can't come first. All right. The next one is your job. I like to say I don't live to work. I work so I can live. Some people, you may not think about that. I don't live to work. Work is not, I don't get up and think about my job 24/7.
hmm
Take my job seriously, very seriously. When I got to work late, I'll work late. When I got to come in early, I'll come in early. If I got to work an extra day, I'll work an extra day. But I'm not married to my job.
hmm
I'm married to her. I'm not married to my job. Um, I don't, I don't need to put my job in ahead of her. But when I was in the Air Force, it was kind of a different thing because you're with the military contract, you do kind of have to do whatever they tell you to do.
hmm
And there was lots of times where I was away from them, whether it was just 2 weeks or it was 4 or 5 months, and that became stressful. So when that was done, it was like,
Mhm.
thank God we don't have to do it again, because that was very stressful when my job took me away from my wife and my family. But um, pursuing a career should not be more important than your spouse or your family. Your spouse and your family shouldn't have to suffer because you don't have time to spend with them because you spend too much time at your job. Um, if you don't really need to do so. Look, I understand. Sometimes you just have to work late. You have the job you have needs you there. But if your job needs you, if your job needs you and takes away more of you than your wife has, maybe you need to get a different job, even if it means you gotta take a pay cut. Um, your job shouldn't be more important than your wife and your family. And I understand financial strain. I've lived it. There are tough times, and we still go through tough times.
Mhm.
Sometimes we have to work overtime or get an extra job, pay the bills, but this should be avoided if it's not necessary. I don't want to work overtime or get an extra job because I want more stuff, or I want better stuff, or I want bigger stuff. Uh, and I'm not going to give a lecture on this. If you like extra stuff, get extra stuff, but make sure that it doesn't put you in a strain to where you have to work more and you lose time with your wife. Uh, um, you know, if you have to work 5 or 10 extra hours a week, sometimes that's not bad. But working 5 or 10 or 15 extra hours a week every week, that sometimes that's not good, and that could really cause a strain.
Mhm.
Hey, Lori, next topic on the list.
Extended family involvement. So, family involvement is great, but apart from your immediate family, extended family involvement can be too much sometimes. Joey and I don't have the in laws problem. Both my parents passed away
My
over
my
20
dad,
years ago.
my mom and dad and family's in Kentucky, 6 hours away.
Yeah. So, we don't really have to deal with that. But this can be an issue for some families. We actually know some people who have in-law issues. Um, so family get-togethers are good, and doing things with your family outside of your immediate household is good. But again, sometimes you just have to say no if it's something that is getting in the way of your relationship with your family.
Yeah,
You can wear yourself out trying to please everyone and inadvertently overlook the needs of your own family. And I have lived that. Besides that extended family involvement, just trying to please everyone else in general can cause issues in your marriage. That by itself, pleasing others, is a whole different topic. So we have to work on that one.
yeah, we might have to work on that one.
Yeah.
And
I got some things to say about that.
yeah, and we'll work on that. So
We'll work on that one.
please your family first. Please,
Please your
please God, serve
and then
God and serve your family. Then if you have time, serve others. Uh, the last one, and some people will think, well, I don't understand why you're putting this on the list, and I'm not hesitant about this, but this is very important. And up until a year ago, it's church involvement. Up until a year ago, we would never thought that us being involved in church would ever have been a bad thing.
mhm,
And being involved in church by itself is not a bad thing, but just like everything else, it become too much.
in moderation.
In moderation, church involvement is good, and I encourage it, and you should. Lori and I, we're involved with our church, not as much as we used to be. We got a good pastor that's monitoring that for us. He's looking out for us. He's going to make sure that we're not over involved like we used to be. Um, and our involvement is more than just sitting in the pew or sitting in Sunday school and listening to somebody teach or somebody preach. It's more than that.
Mhm.
She's already involved in the kids group, and we've been teaching Sunday school. And when we went to our first Weekend to Remember marriage conference that Family Life puts on, it was in Branson last year. We realized that we were involved in too many things that took us away from each other. And one of those things was too much church involvement. Last year, I added it up at once. At any certain day last year, this time last year, I was involved in 7 different things at the church. I'm not going to name them, but 7 different things. And I may have to have a meeting at the church after service for 2 or 3 different things at once. So I may have to spend 2 or 3 extra hours after church because I'm in meetings from the things I'm involved in. come in on a Friday or a Saturday
Mhm.
or any oddball day of the week because
Like after church AM, and then
yeah,
before church in the PM, and then after church in the PM,
yep.
and then you're there all day, literally.
I was involved in 7 different things at my church, and not anymore. I got a good pastor. He don't want me doing it. Told him like, Pastor, I do want to be involved, but not 7 or 8 things at once. He's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Uh, There are a lot of problems that revolve around being overcommitted with anything, and church commitment is not an exception. But we tell ourselves, and even church people get up in front of the church and say, if you don't want to serve the Lord, then you're not a real Christian. If you don't want to volunteer when people need help in the church, and you're not a real Christian. If we need help with this, you should do it. If we need help with that, you should do it. And that and this and that. In moderation.
Mm-hmm.
But you ain't got to be involved in 7 different things because that's what you think you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and when we do this, we not only take on a works based mind frame. That's something I thought about. Well, if I'm involved, the better Christian I am. That's a works based belief, and we shouldn't have to be like that. You do what God calls you to do. I don't think God called me to do 7 different things at once.
Yeah.
And then we decided about this time last year that we need to cut back. And part of that cutback led us to leaving our church for a little time. Then we came back to our church, and we had a new pastor. Nothing against the other pastor,
Mm-hmm.
but our new pastor said, "I'm glad you're back. We're not gonna put you in 7 different things at once anymore. We're not gonna overcommit you, and we're not gonna let you get overcommitted. I might tell you no on some things. So that's good. Um, for at first it was hard. It was hard for Lori and I to let go of some of the church activities because we didn't think we were supposed to. Well, you're just supposed to help with,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm supposed to help with the youth or the Sunday school or whatever it is. We're supposed to do that. That's what God wants us to do. But we didn't see how much damage it was causing to us and our family. And so now we've cut back and looking from the outside in, we see that all those other things we're involved in, it wasn't pleasing God because it's hard to focus on one thing in general. Try
Mm-hmm.
to focus on 7 things at once. You just can't do it. You can't be committed to 7 different things at once, no matter where it is. So, and again, we're not saying don't be involved. We're not saying that, but know your limitations. Know when to say no. No, don't get overcommitted. And it would be better to put all your focus into one small thing. If all you do is clean up every Sunday after the church meal,
Mm-hmm.
then you be the best church meal cleaner ever. Or if all you do is help in the nursery once every 3 or 4 weeks, then you be the best part-time helper in the nursery you can be. Um, you don't have to do 7 things at once.
Even our pastor does that.
Yeah,
Our pastor, we have a. They just started a. I don't want to say program, but it's just a.
it's
It's a
a
rotation
it's a way of managing the
where
nursery.
they.
It's a
If
good idea.
yeah, if you get enough people to do it, and you only have to serve like 4 times a year.
Yeah.
And so Joey and I were like, well, we can handle that. So we signed up for that because we're like, well, that's not like an every Sunday thing. So we'll sign up for that. So
They probably don't have no nursery in Doug Wilson Church. Their kids probably out there screaming and yelling in church, and the husband goes,
and
"Go
then
get them wives, get
I
your
was gonna
kids
say
out of
then
here.
he's yelling at the wife
Get them
because she
kids
ain't
out of
keeping
here."
them quiet.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our list. I hope this has been beneficial to you. And like I said, we're going to talk about these more in detail later. Next week, we're going to talk about sexual intimacy. And it may even be to where we may have to break this up in 2 episodes because this one's 38 minutes going. The sexual intimacy one, it might go in an hour and a half. If it runs too long, it might be, hey, this sexual intimacy, it might be a 2-part episode,
Yes.
maybe 3. Who knows? Because we're going to get serious about it. We're going to go into depth and detail some of our personal things.
It won't
Nothing.
be X-rated though.
No, it won't be X-rated. We're not going to give any of our personal details, but we may talk about some of the struggles we've had, some of the barriers we had to break. So you don't want to miss that. And like I said, maybe we'll circle back in the future and do some of these on the list here. So thank you for watching our show. And hey, if you don't know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, we hope you come to know Him, and we hope that we've been a good influence on you, and that you can see Jesus in us, and that we have been the light and the salt of Jesus to you. And then if you want to ever send us an email or a personal message, please do so. I'll put my email in here so you can message us, comment, like, tell us about us, subscribe, and thank you, and God bless you.